Next up is the meeting of the Urbana City Council. For Monday, October 2nd, 2017. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Here.
Amos. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Hazen.
Here.
Mr. Jacobson.
Still here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Are there any additions to the agenda? I would like to add two, and that's two proclamations. I want to get these done at the beginning of the meeting because we have young children who really should be home doing their homework, right? So I'm going to read a couple of proclamations.
It's not on my head.
We have the principal here, too.
Oh, wonderful.
Hey, Mayor Marlin.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Should we face a certain way?
Let's see, where's the cameras? Let's face that way.
Oh,
Yes.
See that camera?
There's cameras all over. No matter where you are, you're on camera. Okay. Would you like to help me? I need some help here. Here, you guys can hold that. Okay. Let's see. All right. It's a good distance. So this is a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Urbana, Illinois. And first, by the way, tell me, where are you from?
Dr. Martin Luther King Elementary School.
All these students are from Dr. Martin Luther King Elementary School, and you're the principal.
Ms. Kayla Lewandowski.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
And
meet you,
welcome.
too. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, this is a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Urbana, Illinois. Whereas hundreds of children's lives could be saved each year if communities make pedestrian safety a priority, and whereas a lack of physical activity is contributing to the rising rates of obesity, diabetes, and other health problems among children, and whereas driving students to school by private vehicle contributes to traffic congestion and air pollution, and whereas parents and caregivers can teach children about pedestrian safety and become aware of the difficulties and dangers that children face on their trip to school each day, and whereas community members and leaders can plan to make immediate changes to enable children to safely walk and bicycle in our communities, and whereas children's parents, schools, and community leaders around the world will be walking to school and raising awareness about walking and bicycling conditions in their communities. Now, therefore I, Diane Wolf Marlin, Mayor of the City of Urbana, do hereby proclaim October 4th, 2017, as International Walk and Roll to School Day. The ability of people to safely walk and bicycle is a vital part of what makes communities thrive. We recognize that by creating opportunities for children and youth to safely walk and bicycle, we can benefit people of all ages, abilities, and resources. My community is committed to work to promote safe walking and bicycling and to eliminate fatal and serious traffic crashes among all road users. Now is the time to act. We know the benefits this would bring to the health and well-being of our children, our communities, and the nation are immeasurable. So congratulations. All right, let's get a picture here. Right where there's, can you hold your proclamation right there in front? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you on Wednesday. You can carry it. And we have the individuals from the National Tutoring Association. We need to get you T-shirts.
I know.
Okay, this is a proclamation. Whereas the National Tutoring Association, a membership organization for tutoring center administrators, established National Tutor Appreciation Week to celebrate the contributions that tutors and tutoring programs make to student lives. And whereas University of Illinois tutoring programs and learning centers will be celebrating National Tutor Appreciation Week throughout the month of October. And whereas hundreds of university students and others tutor on campus and throughout our community at local schools, in after-school programs, and for adult literacy programs. Now, therefore, I, Diane Wolf Marlin, Mayor of the City of Urbana, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the week of October 2nd through 6th, 2017, as Tutor Appreciation Week in the City of Urbana, Illinois. Thank you very much. Thank you. And there's your proclamation. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much. Next up is public input, and we will begin with a presentation by Slavin Management Consultants, who will give an overview of the city administrator search, and that will be followed by a presentation of a certificate by the fire department, and then input from the public. Thank you. Oh. Minutes. I was just reminded I skipped the minutes, so we will approve the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the September 18th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions or any corrections to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, those minutes pass. Thank you very much. Okay. Todd Rent will introduce our guests.
Yes, for this evening's public input, we'd like to provide an update on the city administrator search. On July 2nd, July 12, 2017, the city of Urbana issued a request for proposals for executive search services in the recruitment of a city administrator. Several executive firms submitted competitive proposals by the July 31st 2017 deadline. Those proposals were carefully evaluated based upon, among other things, the demonstrated ability of the firm to develop strategies for recruiting a diverse pool of highly qualified candidates, the qualifications and experience of the staff that would be assigned to the search, the responsiveness of the proposal, and the cost. Given these criteria, Slavin Management Consultants demonstrated a unique commitment to accommodate the specific needs of the city of Urbana. We are very pleased to present Robert Slavin and David Krings.
Thank you, Todd. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for asking us, first of all, for choosing us to do this work, and secondly, for asking us to be here tonight. I'll be brief, let Dave talk if he chooses. But briefly, Slavin Management Consultants is one of few companies in the United States that is an executive recruitment firm specializing almost exclusively in governmental placements. We have been in existence the company's been in existence since 1991. Dave has been with the company for about 10 years now, 12 years now, and I have been doing this work since 1979. And in the course of our work, we placed municipal executives and county executives level employees in something of more than 850 different positions around the United States. Our work has included jurisdictions in 46 of the 50 states. We've been very successful and very pleased that our placements have tenure and their jobs has far exceeded the national average for city and county managers. We're very pleased that our record also includes the placement of minorities and women in at least a fourth of the positions that we've recruited, and those positions include city administrators, police chiefs, fire chiefs, and a wide variety of different local government managers. The work we're doing here is similar to what we've done, the process is similar to what we've provided to other clients. It's not a off-the-shelf, you do it our way type of a process, but rather it's a process built on a set of criteria that you folks establish, and what we're doing today and tomorrow is trying to determine exactly what the needs of Urbana are in this position of city administrator moving forward. And in order to accomplish that, we spent today talking with a lot of people, First of all, we were provided a tour of the city, which was a wonderful opportunity. Spent at least 2 hours or more touring the city. Saw all parts of it from east to west to north to south, all different neighborhoods, different commercial areas, the university. Had read a lot about it before we came here, but it was really nice to see the city in person, and resulting in both of us being extremely impressed with Urbana. All of the things we heard about it, which are mostly of which were very positive, we were determined to be accurate, and very pleased for that, because it'll help us in our effort to attract high-quality people to this job. We spent a good number of a nice long meeting with the mayor at noon today, and then with staff folks throughout the rest of the day, and with council members this evening. Tomorrow we'll continue our process of talking to people, meet with, I think, Public Works in the morning and department heads in the afternoon, meet with administrative staff later in the day, and then I think the day ends with another opportunity to meet with the mayor and some senior folks. We've been extremely impressed with what we've seen. The process, again, is based on the information that we learn when we're here, and we use that information to guide us through the entire process. We know people. We've been in the business a long time, know people all over the country, so we probably have some ideas of who to contact first, but the reality is we use your criteria to determine who meets the criteria and who to go after, and how to evaluate applicants who apply. And those applicants are either as a combination of people who we've contacted and asked to take a look at it, and people who respond to our advertisements, if you will, announcements in professional publications, on professional websites, professional journals, and people who we identify and ask to take a specific look at the job. And once we attract people to the position, we will evaluate their backgrounds, regardless of whether they applied at our invitation or through an advertisement or a website announcement, against the same criteria, and that's your criteria. We use that throughout the entire process to develop candidates, eventually with resulting in a number of well qualified, well vetted people coming here for interviews. The process is comprehensive. It's intended to take 90 days from the time that we have an approved recruitment profile to the time that people are ready to come here for interview. Our process continues after the interviews take place. We help help the city put together a process for the interviews, and we also help provide technical and professional assistance throughout that process. We help you make a selection. We'll provide assistance in negotiating the terms and conditions of employment. We stay with the city throughout the first year at least to make sure that the fit is right, and that the person that is hired is in fact the right fit, and that he or she is fitting the needs of the city well. We continue our commitment to the city for at least the first 2 years, because if for any reason the person hired is not on the job within that first 2-year period, we will do the search again, charge you expenses but no additional fee. Dave, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, we really do applaud the mayor for involving the whole council, as well as staff and other advisors to this process. It's very important for us to be able to come up with a description of exactly what is important to you all. That's as distinguished as to what's important to us. We want to bring some bodies here that's going to make your decision-making difficult because we're going to have multiple top-quality people, and you're going to have a hard time choosing which one has the best fit for Urbana. That's our goal. And, as Bob said, we do this guarantee, which is, I don't know if any of the other recruiting firms that you mentioned that you had applying gave you that guarantee. But if that person that you ultimately hire as a result of our recruitment leaves within 2 years, as Bob mentioned, we'll do the search over again. We will also stay here until you're satisfied with the candidates. In those rare instances where the council has not been satisfied with what we bring forward, we'll go out and get another group of candidates until you're satisfied. Again, I think that sets us apart from some of our competitors. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for Central Illinois. I used to live in Peoria. I really very much appreciate the opportunity to come back and to work with you all.
Dave mentioned the guarantee, and we did too, and I commented to several of you today that we've had to honor that guarantee in the time I've been in this business since 1979, 3 times. Once the person died, the other 2 times they quit before the 2 years was up. But I'm proud to say that there hasn't been an example of anybody being let go for performance reasons.
Right.
Mayor and council members, if there are questions or if there's anything that, any additional information that you'd like, the process is wide open. The only thing I'd caution is that there has to be a certain level of confidentiality in terms of the recruitment process in order for us to attract good candidates. But anything we have in our office is yours, and the process is wide open. It's not a secretive process at all.
Any questions? Eric?
So this is actually a question for council. There are exceptions to the Open Meetings Act for personnel matters. And I could envisage, as we move through this process, there are points where there would be issues that would need to be kept confidential, especially involving, you know, identity of candidates, but where it might be very beneficial for council to be able to discuss as a group. So I guess I would not ask you right now to detail all the times when that would not be permissible or times when it would. I guess I'm just sort of laying down a notion that maybe, you know, we should be coming back to you at different times in the process and asking for guidance as to whether at particular stages we might be able to meet in executive session.
And I would be more happy than pleased to provide that guidance. There are provisions in the Open Meetings Act which allows you to go into closed session, and that would be handled exactly the way you go into any closed session. You start out in open session, there's a motion, cite the section of the Open Meetings Act pursuant to which you will go into closed session. What I would need from you all, whoever raises the question of a closed session, tell me what it is you hope to discuss and achieve in a closed session. Of course, as we all know, any action of any kind has to be taken in open session. It's not to say you can't take straw polls within closed session, get an idea of a direction, but any final action has to be, in our case, not only open session, but city council action.
Okay. Any other questions? Bill?
So you talked about the time span between recruitment profile to when we get candidates being 90 days. I assume, I don't know if you mentioned it, you met with groups of us today and kind of gathered information from us, what we expect from the candidate. Is that pretty much enough to base the development of a recruitment profile, or that along with job description? How much more work is there to do to get to the recruitment profile stage?
Well, we spent some time this evening talking with each of you, and we spent a lot of time earlier in the day talking with a lot of other folks, including with the mayor. We, as HR department, provided us with a lot of information before we came here relative to the job and the way it's established, the legal establishment of it. A lot of information about the city of Urbana, and we will spend tomorrow learning more. So, and we had the tour. So I think by the time we finish the work tomorrow, we'll have a pretty good basis of knowledge to produce a draft. So, and if we don't, we know how to reach you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Mary Alice?
I'm just curious, does that draft come to City Council for approval? Or how does that process work?
That is a decision or the question that you need to ask the mayor.
I'm looking at the mayor.
I'm looking at Todd.
Todd's looking at Jim and
So ultimately, it's my understanding that there's ordinance language that establishes certain criteria for the city. I think it's called the administrative officer, if I'm not mistaken. And then there is a separate functional job description that we have in human resources. My understanding is that job description would be something that would be internally produced by staff with the mayor's approval. However, any changes to the ordinance language would require city council passage. Now, I'll refer to Jim and the mayor for correction.
Jim?
If there is language which is either superfluous in the job description of the administrative officer, or sometimes as it appears throughout our city code as chief administrative officer, it's back and forth. Obviously, that section would have to be amended. What I would recommend, just to make things simpler, is basically amending the administrative officer section and make it a city administrator section, wipe the slate clean, so to speak, on job description, and then for the rest at the very bottom, a simple reference that wherever chief administrative officer appears, it shall mean the city administrator.
I think in terms of the actual recruitment and in the interest of getting it underway fairly quickly, we'll go ahead, develop the candidate profile for use in the recruitment procedure, but that would then serve as the basis for whatever changes our ordinance will have later on. But the candidate profile will get out fairly quickly. And that would be, I can share it with you, but the mayor, I would give the final approval on that one.
It's helpful, and with your permission, Mayor, after talking with each of the members of the council we've spoken with, and with you and your staff, I don't think there'll be anything in that document that would be particularly controversial, or nor have we heard anything that would suggest major conflicts within it. So.
From what I sense, there's some major themes emerging. I mean, there's a lot of consensus that's emerging
That's a good
over
way
today.
to put it.
Aaron?
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand this process. That there is a job description, though, that currently exists, though. It just needs to be updated or something like that?
Yes. There's a job description. I believe the last time it was updated may have been 2002.
And so the changes that would take place or any updates to that job description would be done by Human Resources, and the mayor would approve that, but it would not come to us?
Yes, that's my understanding. And maybe I should explain, with the job description, you're dealing with much more than sort of the substantive criteria of the individual who's going to be serving, right? You're dealing with skills, knowledge, and abilities. You're dealing with criteria in terms of qualifications, but you're also dealing with marginal and essential job functions and things that are very human resources oriented, as opposed to that you wouldn't necessarily want to put in necessarily an ordinance. So there are just a lot of things, like for instance, that job description may be 3 or 4 pages, whereas if you take a look at the city ordinance, you may see 4 or 5 bullet points that outline just very basic criteria for the position.
In the job description, those changes or updates would be a part of the search, though, because the person has to know what they're signing up for.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. You've had a very long day. You've got
So
a
have you.
longer day tomorrow.
Madam Mayor, thank you. And members of the council, thank you so much. We'll see you first thing in the morning, some of you. So, thank you, folks. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. And I would like to acknowledge the extraordinary work that our HR department has done in organizing this visit and scheduling all the meetings today, and it really gave a lot of people an opportunity to provide input. So thank you.
We have great help, great staff.
We really do. Okay, next up is Urbana Fire Department.
You go first? Well, yours is probably more extensive than mine.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce John, Phil.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
This is John Dwyer. John is our ESDA director for Champaign County, and he has a description of what a storm-ready community is, and the certificate we're going to get as a community, and then Fire Marshal Edwards is going to describe what Urbana does specifically through Risk Watch to be storm-ready.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. First of all, let me say thank you for your time and your service that you give to this community. It's well appreciated, and the support you give our office at Champaign County EMA. Let me be the first to tell you that that the City of Urbana has been storm ready since 2000. As a matter of fact, September 5th of 2000, it was one of the first communities south of I-80 with that designation. The program started back in 1999 out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, as a way to get communities ready for any potential weather impacts. It involves an application process as well as a site visit from the local National Weather Service office, ours being out of Lincoln, Illinois. So for almost 17 years, the City of Urbana has been storm ready. What that means for the community is that it's a program that encourages communities to take new, proactive approach to improving local hazardous weather operations by providing managers with clear-cut guidelines on how to improve their hazardous weather operations. It helps arm America's communities with communication and safety skills needed to save lives and property before, during, and after the event. Storm Ready helps community leaders and emergency managers strengthen local safety programs. To be a storm ready community, you must have an established 24-hour warning point, an emergency operations center, have more than one way to receive weather warnings and forecasts to alert the public, create a system that monitors weather locally, promote the importance of public readiness through community seminars, and develop formal hazardous weather plans, which includes severe weather spotters and holding emergency exercises. So having said that, we get inputs from fire as far as different community events. So there's a lot of behind-the-scene things that you may not know about. Whereas like your Sweet Corn Festival, we submit that to the National Weather Service with a name and a 24-hour contact. That way, if the weather could impact that event, they can get a warning or a phone call before the event or sometime before the event happens that a weather might impact that outdoor event. Same thing with the Illini Marathon and other community events, whether it's block parties or things like that. As well as the devotion to service you all provides Public Works with their maintaining their outdoor warning sirens. Or it could be the fire department providing weather radios or weather awareness to schools and other businesses. So it helps our job at emergency management control the chaos if there's another tornado that goes through this community. Just one thing I'd like to add, even before the town of Gifford was struck by a tornado, we became a storm-ready county, and that involved getting smaller communities involved in the program, and Gifford was one of them. And that included making sure that they had a place to get weather warnings, having been at least have a weather radio at some point, or some place that they can monitor weather situations. So I applaud your efforts. To give you some other statistics, Only 77 communities in the whole state of Illinois are designated storm ready. Parkland College is a storm ready college, and even our Busey Bank is what they call a storm ready supporter. So you can have storm ready communities, supporters, as well as colleges and other parts of the program. But as far as a community south of I-80, we have the most storm ready supporters of communities, cities in the state of Illinois. So.
This thing right here, were we supposed to start this timer ourselves, or were y'all going to start it? I noticed it's been on 5 minutes since I've been here, so I won't be 5 minutes. Basically, we play a very small part in making this community a storm-ready community. And the role that we play is we go to all the schools. We have a tornado simulator, which is our safety house. It doubles as a smoke safety, which we'll be demonstrating this month for Fire Safety Month. But then in the month of April, we go back out to the schools and we'll have them go through the tornado simulator. Basically, we talk to the children about what to do before a natural disaster, how to survive one during a natural disaster, then what to do afterwards. And by doing that, we always send information home with them because we know that they're just, children, so they're not responsible for the entire family legally. But we still share with them how important it is to take what we teach them home. And we do it in an entertaining way so that they can, remember what's been told, what they were told, so they can remember it. But basically, the number one thing we tell the young people is do what your parents say when they say to do it. If the tornado sirens go off, if your parents say, let's get downstairs, you go right away. Don't sit around playing games. You need to get up and go. And we always tell them when you get home, tell your parents that the fire department said that, so they'll appreciate that. We tell them in the time of a storm, doing what your parents say when they say to do it, that's the best way to be safe in a tornado. But it's also the best way to stay out of trouble when there's not a tornado. And the parents appreciate that. As far as our recovery, we give them information to take home that has resources that are available. I have to include your number on that, your personal cell number, John, so that they can call you personally. But we share information about resources. We team up with the school district, Carl Hospital, Red Cross, and the police department to provide this program, Risk Watch program. And that's what we do to tap into the storm-ready community.
So, like I said, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff between the departments, whether it's police, fire, public works, working with communities to make sure they're as safe as they can be, giving them plans, giving them advice, so when the storm does come, that they can react to it. So, with that, I've got a small presentation to give the mayor for being a storm-ready community. I'm sorry I'm not as cute as the kids, but...
Storm Ready Certificate of Recognition from Urbana, Illinois. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
And a street sign, I guess. What am I doing with this?
Give it to Bill.
Oh, okay.
We can always use another street sign.
All right.
Here,
Thank
we should
you.
take
Have
it
a
out
good
so
night.
people can see it. All right. Just so we make sure we got this for people to see. So we'll find a street or a pole that'll take this sign. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll continue with public input. Bishop King James Underwood does not wish to speak, but he wants to go on record saying that we are continuously concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problems. David Monk. Please state your name and you'll have 5 minutes.
115 North Market, Champaign. I'm still concerned about Prairie on North Lincoln it's the sort of thing that you need to be in there 8 years beforehand to have it planned, so by this time it's probably written in concrete. But a number 4 mix is progress. From the early 60s, it was sort of felt that grass prairies were, you could get them together quickly, they'd grow well, and that was it. Gradually, we've convinced, or a lot of people have convinced the Department of Natural Resources and Department of Transportation to be more biodiverse, and you can include the broadleaves. If you had 10,000 acres, you would probably have best part of 100 different broadleaf species, along with 6 or 7 grasses. If you're reconstructing a prairie to look like a prairie, you can choose to have probably 12 rough, tough prairie plants that know how to survive and are politically interesting. You can go a little further and perhaps do 24 or 36. I would suggest that we might be able to change things. It's probably a few weeks before the sowing is here. I'm suggesting that the rate of the grasses might be reduced a little, and that we put seed into the mix. Been talking to Bill Graham, and he doesn't give me a lot of hope that this can happen, but I think it's more likely to happen in Urbana than anywhere else. I think you have a sympathy for it. You have Meadowbrook Park. You have a lot of people who have gone through Barnhart Prairie and Barnhart other zoning. I think the sympathy is there. There would be some cost for a rough, tough addition of prairie. It might be that Grand Prairie Friends could provide seed. I'm not speaking for them, and they might not be able to do it too because they have their own territories. But I think it would be worthwhile to spend a little money putting this in now. If you put it in permanently with grasses, you're not going to have the same opportunity to have a biodiverse prairie, and I think we need the biodiversity. The state's down to having saved 0.01% of its 2/3 prairie, and it's time that people got to recognize it a little bit. It's 6 generations since we got rid of the prairie, and so I'm encouraging Bill. He's got a meeting tomorrow morning with regional planning from Paris, I assume, and I would like to ask the question at least. We've had a lot of back and forth on the Kickapoo Trail, so DOT is very much aware that we're concerned about prairie, and this is a good opportunity. There's about 6 acres there, and some of it's a little various, but I think if we could get just at least 12 plants, some of them won't come easily, quickly. Yellow coneflower is a good diplomat, but it waits about 4 years before it starts to say something, and then you've got golden everywhere. Some of it, Indian grass, will come quickly, and there'll be broadleaves that will come quickly, but mostly they're perennials, so they grow slowly, have deep roots, and I would like to see them go in now, if that's at all possible. And so I'd encourage you to think about that, and yes, we hope. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave. Eric?
So just a thought. I wonder if it would be possible to broaden our concern for trees and our arborist types of functions to trees and prairie restoration. Those things are, I mean, they're different plants, but there's sort of a similar kind of concern.
The territory was not really heavy in trees. Your heritage is prairie,
Well-
And a few trees here and there is like the Kickapoo Trail,
Yeah.
will have a few trees on it. But the biodiversity that we're looking for is prairie.
Yeah, but I mean, we could discuss it at more length sometime. The perspective out of which my question came is that we're looking to provide, remnants of natural diversity in an urban environment.
Yes, well, it's very near to streams, so there would have been something like the Big Grove, and
Yeah.
there would have been some trees, so you're
Yeah.
okay. But I'm gunning for prairie.
Well,
Came through
n-
Australia a
north
long
of
time
the
ago, and I could not find it.
North of the boneyard was trees, south of the boneyard was prairie, I think.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Dave. Next up, Bill?
Could we just get an update on how we decide what plants to plant along there and what the plans are and if we have any choices in that? Or is it scheduled to be prairie grasses currently?
There's a, it's an IDOT Class 4A mix. It's got some prairie plants in it, a few plants, and some grasses. So it's not a lawn or a turf situation, but it's good for side slopes, ditches, which is where we're covering, is ditches both sides of the road and some pretty steep banks.
And what are our options now if we were to want more broadleafs in there, like Dave suggested? If we wanted a dozen plants, would that how would we go about doing that?
They're poised to plant in about 2 weeks, so materials are ordered and IDOT approved.
Okay, so we can't.
No, it's too late to change now. I
yeah.
mean, if that's what you're asking, yeah. Without considerable cost, and I don't know that it'd be permissible.
And does that usually establish itself in the first year if we wanted to go back through?
Yes. Hey, we hope to. I mean, it's like Olympian Drive is a similar mix.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to 8 years ago, yeah, these were topics talked about 8 years ago. We never considered 14 acres of prairie along the side slopes of Lincoln Avenue. That was not a comment raised and put into, and I think establishing prairie is a lot more expensive, a lot more labor intensive, and not something that Public Works crews are really available, equipped to take on, not at that amount of area. I mean, there's certain resources, so many dollars we have, so, but that was not something folded into this project.
Okay. It does seem like it could be an issue for the Sustainability Advisory Committee to advise on for future projects, maybe, to see if there are other options besides us doing the work, or if there are less expensive options in planting prairies, things like that.
But this was not a comment raised in the last many years to do this, so, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, going forward, we can look at it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Terry Townsend, speaking on the Housing Authority.
All right, I'll use my 5 minutes of getting to the chair. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, staff, taxpayers. My name is Terry Townsend. I am the first African-American officer of the Housing Authority of Champaign County. I served for 10 years. I was the human resource person from the board level. I constantly get calls related to the Housing Authority, even though I'm retired. And so I have taken it upon myself to come and give you some information that you may find useful. How did the City of Urbana get authority to appoint individuals to the Housing Authority of Champaign County? As I've said before, we found approximately $1.7 million in a file cabinet. We didn't know where the money came from. The FBI investigated, the Inspector General HUD investigated. We never learned where it came from. But what happened was a political firefight occurred between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And that resulted in you getting appointment powers. Prior to that, the county board appointed all of the Housing Authority commissioners. It is a county housing authority, and it was 5 of us at that time. The Housing Authority is also a municipal corporation. The City of Urbana has no legal authority over housing authority operations, but you do have legal and political authority over your appointments to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and possible legal liability, but that has not been tested. Your last appointee attended 1 meeting the entire past year. This must not happen again. The Housing Authority must operate at full capacity. Per the Housing Authority bylaws, the Housing Authority chair was supposed to inform you or notify you that a member that you had appointed had not been to a meeting past 3 months and should have, FYI, the other municipal governments. That was not done. Commissioners and administrative staff from the Housing Authority should not lobby any of the appointing authorities, that's the City of Urbana, City of Champaign, and the county, for the express purpose of influencing appointments to the Housing Authority. It defeats the purpose of the intergovernmental agreement. It's my hope that you guys will go back and review what that agreement means. The Housing Authority is currently conducting its executive director search in secret. This is wrong-headed and offensive to taxpayers. Even more egregious, they have excluded its primary stakeholders from the search team. That would be the tenants, the City of Urbana, the City of Champaign, as well as the county. And they've refused to advertise the position to Champaign and Urbana and county residents. In other words, defying your constituents the opportunity to compete for the position. You ought to be livid. I have a few recommendations, and I will make similar recommendations to the City of Champaign and other units of government. That stakeholders demand to be on the search committee. Of course, the final authority will be the Board of Commissioners. You're not currently on any committee. The Housing Authority should advertise the vacant executive director position locally. At least give your constituents an opportunity to compete. I checked with the media. That has not been done. I think they have interviewed at least 3 people. This should be a transparent process. The City of Urbana should quickly appoint a smart, tough individual to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I am really begging you to take this seriously. Cairo, Illinois is in crisis. I will have to go there. The Section 8 audits here show it is in absolute turmoil. I've been in contact with HUD Central as well as the regional office as we launch this investigation into Section 8. That's not my job. That's your job. How many people have left the Housing Authority because of my investigations, including the chair? 6, 7? How many staff members have been reassigned to HUD because of my investigations? That's not my job. The job is the City of Urbana, the City of Champaign, and the county. Lastly, I would highly suggest that you do not reappoint or renew the appointments of the current housing commissioners. And I'll take a few questions because this is pretty distasteful stuff. But somebody's got to do it.
Just before questions, I would, just so the council knows, we currently have 2 appointees to the Housing Authority Board. One of them is former Urbana Police Chief Eddie Adair. He continues. The second appointee recently turned in her letter of resignation, which I received probably in the last couple of weeks. So we are looking for a replacement for her, and we'll be advertising that as well. So that's underway. Eric?
I guess question for the mayor, does that appointment, like appointments to other boards and commissions, come before our council? Okay.
Yeah.
And then a question for Jim. I think I know the answer, but it seems obvious that the Champaign County Housing Authority falls under the jurisdiction of the Open Meetings Act. Or not?
I can't answer that quickly. I'd have to do a little research. I'm not actually familiar with the body itself. I know it exists. I know what they do.
Yeah.
If it is a public body, then yes, clearly. If it's a public body, elected or appointed. As I understand, all of the members on the commission are appointed by one authority or another, Champaign, Urbana, presumably the county. I would speculate, at least at this point, that it would be subject to the Open Meetings Act, just like we are.
So the procedure, if a person such as Mr. Townsend believes that that act has been violated, that goes to the state attorney general, is that correct?
Well, close. The first thing he would have to do is make a demand on the commission, indicating that they have violated the act. Then he could file his complaint, if you want to call it that, with the public access counselor in the Attorney General's office. And then that person would look into it. They basically would send the complaint on to the Housing Authority, ask them to respond. They would do their research and their due diligence, and then come up with their opinion.
And is there a statutory requirement for advertising for positions such as Executive Director of Champaign County Housing Authority?
That I don't know in the case of the Housing Authority.
Maybe, since we have a pretty prominent role in by virtue of appointing commissioners, maybe would it be okay to task Jim with researching that?
It might be a fairly straightforward
Yeah.
thing to answer.
You want me to research the issue whether the executive director, hired executive director or chief administrative officer, that position has to be advertised to be filled?
Yeah, whether that has to be advertised and whether the whole authority falls under the
Open Meetings
aegis
Act.
of the Open Meetings Act. Yeah.
Will do.
Aaron?
So Terry, you alluded to the process by which we gained access or the ability to make an appointment, but you seem to have left that open, that whether or not that has been challenged or not, or whether or not we as a body would be able to continue to do that if there was a challenge. Is that a fair assessment of what I heard you say?
I don't think that anyone would challenge your ability to appoint, because the Housing Authority is first created by the Illinois Housing Authority Act and was amended by the intergovernmental agreement. So you're on solid ground with your appointments. Okay. There's no problem there. There is a problem with, I think, in terms of perception, that because they are independent in a municipal corporation with powers like eminent domain, subpoena powers, it's a very, very powerful organization, that some think that, okay, once we appoint you, we're done. And legally, there's some things that the city can't do. But I can surely tell everyone in this room, if the mayor appointed me and called me up and asked me, why do we not have affordable housing in Urbana? I would have to get her a real good answer, or any one of you a real good answer, or either I'd have to step down. Or if I was asked to step down by the people who appointed me, I would do that. What has happened here, and has happened in Cairo, and is happening across the state, is that the cities are pretty much not involved in the process because of a perception that they're legally their hands are tied, but they're not. Not
So
totally.
the appointment itself to those positions have to be thoroughly vetted, to be people who are thoroughly interested in that process and not some political appointment or something like that.
Well, I think that politics is going to get involved in it, but I think that what this body should do is make sure that whoever goes over there does not represent the director or the commissioners there, but represents the people of Urbana.
Which is where the city council can assist with this in recommending people that you think might be good candidates to serve on the board, which we'll be asking for.
And there's one other thing, too, why the Housing Authority should include you on their search team. Because of any project that they do, they still got to do it in the city of Urbana, in the city of Champaign, or in the county. So as you're a partner, you don't have an intergovernmental, you have an intergovernmental agreement, but you don't have a cooperative agreement with the Housing Authority like the city of Champaign does.
Okay.
And consequently, that this whole thing is becoming problematic. So I'll leave on that note.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have another question.
Okay.
The executive director search that you alluded to, or you spoke very candidly about, we don't have any representation from the city of Urbana on that.
No.
Does Champaign?
No.
And so, but you are aware that the search is not including people in the cities of Champaign, Urbana?
Yes, they've brought, I think, 3 candidates to Champaign. There's sort of like a subcommittee of the committee that is doing that. I checked with the News Gazette and other media, and they have no advertisements or anything. They're completely operating under the radar.
So the Housing Authority body, we have, well, one appointee now,
Yeah,
had
one
two.
appointee, yeah.
There was another committee formed of that group.
Yeah, there's a committee of the board that's doing this interviewing and bringing in candidates.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Could I just say one thing we did?
Ex-
Just one thing.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. When I was there, we had to annually give an accounting of our activities to the county board. And I don't see that that would be a bad thing for you to ask from your appointee that you get an annual accounting of what goes on. And I'm not talking about the social experiment moving to work. Thank you.
That's a very good suggestion.
Can I ask one quick question? I believe you indicated that the housing authority is a creature of state statute?
Yes.
Then there's no question the Open Meetings Act applies. It's a public body.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to talk out of turn.
No, that's quite all right.
The problem here is that the federal program, HUD, is the program. Housing authorities are created by state statute. In Illinois, it's called the Illinois Housing Authorities Act.
Okay. Thank
The
you very
feds
much.
fund the program, but the state creates the organization. Open Meetings Act, no question about it.
No question.
Okay, that's definitive. All right, we'll
Thank
move
you.
on to, thank you very much. We'll move on to reports of standing committees from, I'm sorry, I've got 2 more people here. One more person. Alex Axelrod, Renewable Energy Municipal Bond, questions.
Hi.
You'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name.
My name is Alan Axelrod. I'm a member of Aaron Amon's district. Thank you very much for your representation. So there's 2 things I want to bring up primarily. The first one is that I've only lived here about a year, and in that year I've seen you guys lump us into an agreement where we then had our electricity, at least in credits, supplied by a wind company, which was amazing to see. And the second thing was that I really was impressed with the resolution in support of the North Dakota Standing Rock Sioux during the Dakota Access Pipeline ongoing drama. So there's, towards that end, one of the first things that I'd like to say is the Ojibwe in Minnesota are in a very similar experience with the Line 3 pipeline. It's a completely new pipeline that's being built masquerading as a replacement, and I sent an email to our mayor, Diane Marlin, detailing just some of what I saw there, which was very encouraging. There was a meeting for about 2 hours scheduled, and the participants were so enthused that an initially beleaguered group of public officials conducting the meeting decided to go another 2.5-ish hours over time to try and accommodate everybody. And they only stopped because the hotel that they were in said, please leave, it's too late in the evening. And they have 14 more meetings here to occur. But the inevitability of the large amount of money that's tied into this was emphasized by the large number of employees that also showed up of Line 3 and their contractors as well. And so I wanted to propose that in addition to a potential resolution, that the City of Urbana also try to look at the feasibility and discuss what we can do to start the process to issue renewable energy bonds municipally, such that the City of Urbana can accelerate growth in renewable energy for their public buildings, saving money, and also generate income for the private citizens who decide to invest in that thing. And the idea being that this shows a viable and rigorous alternative to taking the immediate money that is tied to pipeline development. That said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea if this is the correct place to speak. I would love to learn more about what I can do to make this happen. A wise man on a bicycle outside told me that I should also speak to Scott Tess if there's time. So, you know, if there's time, I would love to find out more.
I think he's our sustainability coordinator. He's the staff member you should be talking to first, and he can give you a lot of information on the topic that you're interested in. And then we can take it from there, or we'll see where we go from there. But Scott Tess would be the person to start with.
And if I might, Alex, or Alan, I really appreciate your comments. I did receive your email. Thank you very much. And just what you're doing now is what makes government work, is that individuals who are not the elected officials but have gifts, skills, talents, or interests, and you come and you offer those as a means of solution, is what makes this thing work the way that it's supposed to. So I want to thank you for taking your time to come out and offering yourself and your service and your energy, your experience to this thing, so possibly we can do something that is in the best interest of everyone. So thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Okay. I have no other comment cards, so we will move on to reports of standing committees. Bill Brown.
Yeah, we met last week as Committee of the Whole and forwarded two resolutions and two ordinances to the Council with recommendation for approval. First is Resolution Number 2017-09-064R, a resolution approving intergovernmental agreement for the JAG program through the Police Department. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? Roll call or voice? Roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Wu?
That motion passes. Bill?
Next is ordinance number 2017-09-054, an ordinance naming a street, avenue, alley, or other public place, changing North Lincoln Avenue to West Oaks Road. For the committee, I move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Jared. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Wu?
That motion passes. Bill?
Next is resolution number 2017-09-065R, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for sewer system modeling. For the committee, I move approval.
I'll second it.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Dean. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Wu?
That motion passes. Bill?
And last from the committee was ordinance number 2017-09-055, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code Section 3-8 for liquor delivery. For the committee, I move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by
May I
Bill.
recuse myself prior to this vote? Thank you very much.
Yes, you may. Moved by Bill, seconded by Mary Alice. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Wait, I have a discussion.
You have discussion. Bill?
I think 3 people were missing last week, but the people that wanted to have the delivery service came and made a nice presentation about how they would enforce the rules and make sure that they had all kinds of high-tech ways of making sure people at home were of age, and they had databases they would put their IDs through to make sure they were legal to buy liquor. But as we pass this ordinance, we have to consider that they might not be the only ones applying for this license. There may be other businesses that don't have as rigorous methods of checking IDs, and they had like a restocking fee, so there was actually an incentive for people not to lie about their ages because they'd have to pay money. So I just wondered if legal or police had reviewed this thoroughly and if there are enough enforcement opportunities to enforce the liquor ordinances under this delivery scenario.
I can't address whether a UPD has the resources to enforce it. I do know they enforce liquor ordinances. Periodically, they will go into establishments, because that's what's here at this point, and other places where liquor is sold, and they will conduct operations with minors and see whether establishments, bartenders, servers, what have you, proprietors sell alcoholic liquor. If somebody is served or if liquor is sold to a minor, it's actually a 2-part process. The individual employee presumably is supposed to, not presumably, but is supposed to have a Bassett certificate. But if they serve a minor, they will get an NTA. Police report will be written, an action will be filed in court. They'll get an NTA as a notice to appear in court, and there'll be a hearing, and they will either ask for a trial, or if they don't show, they are defaulted, and if they do show, they may plead guilty. Once the legal division learns of a violation, then a notice of violation under the ordinance is sent to the establishment, the licensee. That is handled in a different process. Typically what we do is we give the licensee an opportunity to settle for a stated amount the violation. If they choose not to, or if they ignore it, typically I'll send out another letter reminding them that they have violated, and that assuming, by the way, assuming if their employee is pled guilty or is found guilty or has been defaulted. If there's a trial or some other proceeding in court where the employee is exonerated, then nothing goes out to the establishment. If the establishment doesn't settle their violation, then they will get a notice of a hearing to appear before the local liquor commissioner, who is the mayor here in Urbana, and a hearing will be held. I've probably sent out, since I've been here, 35 notices to establishments, and we've yet to have a hearing. Every single one has settled. There's one pending right now where they've gone way past the deadline. I think in part because we extended the settlement deadline to 60 days because of our concern for individuals and their ability to raise the funds to settle. Establishments are in a different situation. We've not differentiated in that 60 days. So I've sent them and their attorney a reminder and I have yet to hear from them, and if I don't hear from them by the end of this week, then we will notify them that they will have a hearing before the local liquor commissioner.
Okay, I think I just wanted to try to get some critical thinking on the issue of enforcement, especially since the transaction is presumed to occur in Urbana, which was explained to us last week. So that Urbana will receive the taxes. I assume Urbana is responsible for enforcing the liquor ordinances, but the delivery may occur in Champaign. So if there are any, if there are any things that we need to work out with Champaign as far as mutual enforcement or anything like that, or if the chief would like to comment, maybe she's already thought this through.
Based on my understanding of how this is going to work, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to do a check with their company just like we would others. It would just be more of a logistical issue, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
Okay,
I
and
don't see any issues.
I know now if somebody goes in, buys liquor, and goes out to the parking lot and gives it to someone underage for twice the price or something, that sort of buying, you probably have a special name for that. Somebody purchasing the liquor for an underage person, that might be easier in a delivery scenario. So I assume you'd
Sure,
have
those sort of things would be hard to, like what happens after the fact would be hard to police, I would say, yes.
Yeah.
But checking to whether or not they're actually making sure that they're selling to somebody that is of age is something that we can check.
Okay.
That's really all we can do at most places. For the most part, it's happenstance if we catch something else where someone's called us and said, oh, I saw this occurring, or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mary Alice?
So if I understand correctly, it's a two-part process. The first one is to have this ordinance, if it's passed, which would allow for the delivery under these circumstances. But if a second company came in and wanted to do the same thing, they would still need to get a liquor license.
Yes.
So it'd still come before council. Is that correct?
Correct.
What happens? How do people lose their liquor license, aside from, is it this process that you just said if they come up to?
Are you asking how they lose that liquor license?
Yeah.
One of the possibilities after this hearing, assuming there's a hearing before the local liquor commissioner, there are three possibilities. They can be fined, or they can have their liquor license suspended for a stated period of time, or they can just lose it outright, and that's it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Haston?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Reports from special committees. Okay. Reports of officers. John Schneider, Community Development Manager.
Good evening. Marcus asked me to tell you about a couple of bicycle events. One you heard about earlier, the walk and roll to school. The other one is Saturday, October 7th, which is the bike rodeo, and it will be in the parking lot across from the market at the square on Illinois Street from 9 to 11:30 a.m., and it will include teaching children bicycle skills through hands-on activities and safety instruction. And they will also be selling and fitting bicycle helmets, $10 for purchasing a helmet, and the fitting is free. Not that bicycle news isn't exciting, but in some very exciting news for the city. On September 29th, which is last Friday, the city received official news that 9% low-income housing tax credits were awarded by the Illinois Housing Development Authority to TWG Development, LLC, who is the new owner of Aspen Court Apartments. And this happened fairly quickly. I mean, they put in their application, and they hadn't closed on the deal when they put in their application. So they closed near the end of June, I believe. So they took ownership. they've been very proactive and doing a lot of things. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done, and we've been working with them and getting a lot of things accomplished. Andrea Kent, the development director for TWG, said the preliminary timeline for the construction to begin is in late spring to early summer 2018, and the project will take, once started, approximately a year to complete. There's more information about the news releases on the city website, and there should be also a link in your City e-newsletter. So that's great news.
Yes.
Any questions for John? We really should be jumping up and down with joy. This is huge for the city of Urbana, especially for that neighborhood that allows for a complete renovation of this 9-acre property. And it's something that the residents, the neighborhood, city staff, and some city council members have been working for a long time. So I want to really publicly acknowledge the work of everyone that's gone into it. And I know former Community Development Director Libby Tyler worked very hard on this as well. So, and we want to also acknowledge the role of TWG for taking this project on. So this is going to transform this property, and it's exactly what's needed there. So I'm jumping for joy. So thank you all for getting us to this point, and we're looking forward to the renovation. Okay. New business. Ordinance number 2017-10-056, which is an ordinance approving a major variance, 711 East Kettering Park Drive. And Lori Pearson.
Thank you very much. So the first ordinance before you tonight is for the A&R Mechanical Building, which if you were to go up North Lincoln Avenue, north of Bradley, it's just east of there a little bit, sandwiched between the cemetery and Lincoln off Kettering. Here is one of their sites, one of the parcels. They also operate out of here and own here. But what is being proposed is a variance. It did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals at their September 20th meeting. That is where they held the public hearing. And the Zoning Board of Appeals did recommend that City Council approve this variance. So what I'll do, just quickly, a little zoning history here, mostly light industrial zoning with some commercial, and the cemetery has county zoning. The site plan you might not be able to see very well on the screen, but I think it's all in your packets. But if you look at the existing building, which is down at the bottom, those pieces were constructed decades ago in some cases, almost on the property line. So over here on this side would be the cemetery. So the most recent addition is this office space here, and that was constructed 5.7 feet from this property line. So what the request is tonight is to do this addition, about 13,000 square feet of addition, just north of the existing offices here, and line it up. So that would require a major variance in order to set it at 5.7 feet from the property line rather than the 10 feet that is ordinarily required. So the reason for that location is to allow enough space in the facility, particularly for the overhead crane, while still allowing enough of the site in the front for parking, circulation, and storage. This is a fairly narrow lot, particularly for an industrial use. So as I mentioned, the Zoning Board of Appeals did recommend that you approve this variance, and staff would also suggest that you approve the variance, and we do have representatives from A&R here that would like to address the council.
Okay.
Unless you have questions for me first, or?
We'll, if you have questions for Lori, we'll take them now, and then we'll ask Bill and John to speak.
Yeah, just a general question. When somebody expands on an existing lot like this, do they have any responsibility to do additional stormwater retention?
They would need to comply with the stormwater management for the new sections, yes.
Did you say they will, or would not?
They would have to, yes.
They would,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, we have John Reichard, who's president of A&R Mechanical, and Bill Walter, vice president of A&R Mechanical. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Hello.
First of all, Bill Walter, Vice President, A&R Mechanical Contractors.
I want to thank the mayor tonight. I want to thank all the council members for entertaining us and our time for this variance. So appreciate your time very much so. Additionally, I want to thank the Zoning Board of Appeal members for their previous support and subsequent unanimous vote to approve this variance. Also, a special thanks to city staff. They've been tremendously helpful in the whole process. Great to work with, really very, very helpful. So a little bit about us and about our story. A&R Mechanical Contractors is a fourth-generation family-owned business with humble beginnings. It all began in 1925 in a small garage in Urbana, Illinois. The resources were modest, but the vision was limitless. As we grew, we needed to move. We never considered leaving the community that gave us our start. We're proud of our homegrown success and are hopeful to continue that success and express that limitless vision of our founders through the next expansion project. So we respectfully request that tonight you would approve the variance as presented.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that. Just reiterate maybe that we did start in Urbana in 1925, moved to our present, well, actually moved to a earlier property on Main Street in about the 1950s, moved to our current site in 1967. We've added on a couple times since then and bought some surrounding properties and continued our growth. So our ask is very simple. We want to continue to grow on a site we own, of course in Urbana, and the reason, probably equally obvious, we want to maintain our position in our industry. We feel this building is necessary to do that, and continue our revenue and then continue employing local tradesmen from Champaign County. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Eric?
So I will just say that if any of you gets like a really energy conservation drastic bug and want to retrofit your house for geothermal heating and cooling, you come to these guys, because our house was really far-fetched to do that with, and they did it and did a terrific job.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson, for the work and for that support.
Any other questions? How many employees do you have?
Seasonally, it'll range, but right now we're carrying about 175. We'll fluctuate up to 275.
Wonderful. And these are union jobs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And which unions are you in particular?
We are signatory to many different unions, primarily in this area, Local 149 and Sheet Metal Workers 218.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Aaron, seconded by Eric. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hayson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you for investing and expanding in Urbana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Pearson returns.
All right, this next ordinance is for a zoning map amendment, more commonly known as a rezoning, at 1303 Cunningham Avenue, which is located in the southwest corner of Cunningham, where Perkins and Country Club Road converge. A couple of weeks ago, perhaps it was last month, I was before you to talk about a termination of a lease agreement for a section of this property, because it is currently owned by the Cunningham Children's Home. At that meeting earlier last month, you did approve the termination of the lease for the small welcome center area that we had here approximately. That would put forward the opportunity for Cunningham to sell this newly created lot without having that encumbrance. So that is why we're here tonight. Cunningham has asked that this parcel be rezoned. It is currently zoned residential R4, medium density multifamily residential. The requested zoning is B3. Just to give you a little background on what we look for when we are evaluating a rezoning and what the Plan Commission looks for when they are evaluating a rezoning is known as the LaSalle criteria. That helps to determine whether or not the zoning is suitable. It looks at things like the surrounding zoning. So for instance, here's the parcel here. We look to see that there is consistency among the zoning. So if this were to be B3 as requested, this would turn red. It would be very consistent with much of the surrounding zoning. We also look at the future land use map as the comprehensive plan outlines. In our case, it was a 2005 comprehensive plan, which did foresee this corner as being community business. That B3 zoning would be appropriate here and still be consistent with the future land use map. We also look at things like the fact that this is an arterial street, thereby making the B3 zoning very appropriate at that location. So the Plan Commission, when they had the public hearing for this rezoning, they did vote at a vote of 6-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning to B3, and staff would also recommend approval. We do have Dan Holmers from Cunningham, who I'm not sure if he's here for questions, or would you like to address the council? He's here for questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Lori or Dan? Bill?
I noticed that there was some discussion of restrictive covenants in the, that they, whoever they sell it to would have some restrictive covenants about liquor sales, things like that. And I just thought it was interesting. I don't have any problem with it. Just wondered how common that is with it's people basically adding restrictions to our zoning.
That is a private transaction, but it is fairly common, perhaps more common in the past than we see today. It's particularly common with residential subdivisions. That's where I see most of the covenants. I don't know if you'd like to speak specifically about the covenants or if you have specific questions about their covenants. Since it is a private matter, we don't really get into that.
Okay. I really don't have any questions or problems with that. I just hadn't seen it much, especially with business properties. Yeah. So.
I can speak a bit to that. I don't have a list of the actual covenants, but because Cunningham is owned and operated by the United Methodist Women, the covenants that are being proposed are in concert with those. In other words, no alcohol sales, no firearms, no adult entertainment. That is consistent with the United Methodist Women's beliefs there. So. Particularly since we still own the property contiguous to it, or will, and the children's home there, so they're fairly insistent upon those covenants. So I think there's a sunset to that, those covenants. I think it's 30 years, but as long as they can maintain that's their desire,
okay.
Our desire.
Yeah, that makes sense, being so close to the children's home. Thanks.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. I neglected to read the ordinance number here. It's ordinance number 2017-10-057, ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Urbana, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Moved by Jared.
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hayson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Wu?
Yes.
That motion passes. Last item on the agenda is an appointment to the Sustainability Advisory Commission. This was a difficult decision. I think I had 12 or 13 applications for this opening. But I am pleased to submit the appointment for your approval of Claire Autumn Johnson. She's been a resident of the city of Urbana for the last 15 years and is currently a carpenter with New Prairie Construction. She's a Bachelor of Science from the University of Illinois. Her work focuses on sustainability in all aspects of building, sourcing more environmentally friendly materials, and ensuring energy efficiency. And through her job, she has extensive experience actually installing the solar panels that we have in our community, and as well as other energy efficiency measures. So I thought it would be good to have have her perspective on the Sustainability Advisory Commission in terms of practicality of some of the things that we're recommending. So, is there a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Jared, seconded by Mary Alice. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion passes. With no further business before the council, this meeting is adjourned.